another video, the T on NPD and relationships. Hello, everyone, to all of my new subscribers and new family members. Hello, hi, and welcome. And to my tribe and family at large, welcome back. Thank you all so much for coming back and watching another video. Fam, you know I'm plugging always. Y'all know our live stream during the week. This is where we get the meat and potatoes, okay? And the spiritual backdrop of all of the things that we have experienced in these relationships. Please make sure if you are on my YouTube and Facebook platforms that you turn your notification bells on, okay? So you know when we go live on the channel. All right. And y'all know I'm always asking y'all to help me out on the like button. Fam. Y'all make sure y'all smash that like button. When you click on the video, make sure you smash the like button. If you enjoy the content, okay? The goal of the day is 2.1K plus on the likes. If you rocks with your girl, hit that like button, hit that. Y'all gonna hit the like button for me, please. Thank you. And y'all, last but not least, please pick up your copy of the new release, Seduced by Satan. Okay? That link is pinned in the description below. You'll thank me later. Okay? We're showing you in real time, in real life, this is based upon a true story, how a cerebral / somatic narcissist, how they basically operate with multiple supply. And I'm talking about, y'all, this thing gets real crazy. Okay, when I tell you a serious page turner, it truly is. All right. So listen, y'all, make sure you pick up your copy of Seduced by Satan today. Okay, y'all, let's jump into the topic of this video. Let's get into it. Let's talk about what happens when the narcissist knows that they must do the final discard. Now, this is this one is very different. Because most of the time it's never a narcissist that does, 99% of the time it's never the narcissist that does the final discard. Okay, let's be clear. Most of the time you're not going to get the narcissist that's going to do the final discard. Most of the time that is going to be left up to the supply. However, there are some times where you have basically pushed them to the point where they know that you're never going to basically accept them back, or they would never feel safe with you again. Okay. Safe is a good word, because a narcissist needs to feel like they are safe with you. Okay. And the way that primarily is solidified, now they'll never trust you. Let's be clear. But they need to know that they're in what we call a safety zone, where you're not going to do something too crazy that they won't be able to overcome, you know, whatever objection or whatever kind of situation that you're presenting for them. There's kind of like this safety zone. Now, let's be clear. They're not going to trust you. But there's a safety zone, and what creates the safety zone for a narcissist is control. Okay? They need to know that they are in complete control in the situation. All right? So that's one. Now, when you talk about the narcissist having to go and do the final discard, this is a very difficult one. Why? Because narcissists are codependent individuals. So their mission and goal is never to get rid of supply. You understand? Their mission and goal is to always be able to maintain and sustain the supply roster. Okay, so that means that anytime they have been with a supply over an extended period of time, that supply is now moved to what they call, what I like to call a harem, or a list of what they would call their properties, because you know they don't treat you like people. You know what I'm saying? They treat you like a property, but like they own you. And really what it is they objectify you. You know, you're not a real person. You're just, you know, you're an instrument or a appliance to be used to a narcissist. But honey, there are times when it has actually gone so wrong for that narcissist in a relationship that the narcissist knows that they have no choice but to do the final discard. Now, this sometimes comes out of the blue for the new supply or for the supply. And sometimes it's not out of the blue. Sometimes the supply is like, oh, I was waiting on it to come because I was checking them on every point. I was clocking them. You know what I'm saying? Making sure that, oh, no, you're not about to do that. You're not about to gaslight me. You're not about to do any of that. No, what we about to do in this situation is you about to get told. You know what I'm saying? So, understanding all of that, when you actually start to understand the process of the discard, you will know that it's really never in the narcissist's nature to do it finally. Okay, so what happens when a narcissist has to do the final discard when they know they got to do it? Okay, so here's the thing: you have pretty much, or the supply, and you, if you're watching this video, you probably were maybe finally discarded and the narcissist never came back. Couple of things. There are two different situations, okay? And the first one I'm going to explain like this. If you were finally discarded by the narcissist and you were with them for, maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 months or whatever. And a lot of times this will happen in long distance relationships and different things like that. And the narcissist has gotten a new supply and they didn't come back. That's because the narcissist was never really serious about you. Okay? They may have had fun with you. They may have played with you, all of those different things. But if you are under a year with the narcissist and they actually did the final discard with you and they did not come back, or, they haven't reached back out or anything like that, either they weren't a narcissist and it was just a toxic relationship. But if it was a narcissist and it was within this time frame, then chances are you were not the primary supply. And the narcissist basically just let you go because they had other supplies that they were dealing with, or tertiary supplies, what we call, like in third position, right? And they never came back. So they were never really serious. These are people that usually don't get to meet the family. You may meet a few friends, but you're never really going to meet the family. You won't meet the kids if they have grown children. There are just different characteristics around that particular thing. Now, if you were, okay, the main supply, and the narcissist basically said, and when I say the main supply, I mean, you were doing everything with the narcissist. Y'all could have been married. Y'all could have been in a long-term relationship or whatever. And the narcissist basically said, I'm done. I'm wiping my hands. I'm never coming back. And they didn't. Usually in situations like that, what has happened is the supply, or in my case, you or I, if a narcissist has to do this, you have basically done something to them that is unforgivable. Okay? They don't forgive you anyway. But if you were a person that in the end, you started clocking that narcissist for everything that they did and said, you started recording them, basically you started to tell them, like when they tell you something and you say, I don't believe you, that's a lie, because and you're questioning their every move. Okay, that right there is bringing narcissistic injury after narcissistic injury. Okay, now that's not all. And then not only that, but you have made yourself unavailable, or you have basically healed to a point where you will not give them complete control. Neither will you allow them to affect your emotions on remote control. Meaning that the narcissist has felt, and they probably told you, they felt some type of way. Okay, they felt like you weren't, that you don't love them anymore, that you don't care, and they probably told you this. And basically, they just said that they knew it was a situation that wasn't conducive, or it wasn't beneficial to them, because now it's taking them more energy to stay in the relationship with you than if they would just discard you and go find another supply. Why? Because they are literally losing energy by the minute dealing with you in this type of situation. I mean, losing energy by the minute. And so a narcissist cannot do that. They cannot lose energy by the minute, because they are energy vampires. So if it's costing them more energy to stay with you than it is to leave you, they're going to leave. And not only are they going to leave, but just depending upon the situation, like what I'm explaining to you now, they're going to leave and stay gone. So so you checking them on everything. You're not allowing them to gaslight you. You have basically emotionally withdrawn from the relationship, because that's typically what happens when the supply starts to check the narcissist, starts fact checking on the narcissist. They, you know that something was wrong. You knew that this bird was crazy. You knew that they were lying. You knew that, oh no, you're not about to get me like that. You see what I'm saying? So in those instances, and then not only that, but you have basically told them that they needed to get help. This is another thing that plays into the final discard, for the narcissist to finally discard. You have told them that they needed to get help. You have basically targeted and pinpointed a point a point in their trauma, or the source of their pain. Whether the narcissist admitted to it or you just discovered it on your own, you have basically identified the source of their pain, and you told them they needed to get help. Well, first of all, they didn't ask you to do that. And if you did do it, or if they did say that they, probably needed to get help because they just wanted to get you back, they weren't serious about that. And they definitely don't want you to remind them of their pain. They can remind you and they can throw it up in your face, okay? But you can't do it to them, okay? You can't continue to tell them that they need help, and this is why they're behaving the way that they're behaving. Because now when you're doing that, these are all things that play into them finally discarding you. Yeah, I'm telling you, these things right here, they ain't coming back. Trust me, they are not. You don't have to worry about discarding that narcissist. They can discard you. They ain't never coming back. Because basically you have identified the fact that you probably told them they was crazy. They had some type of mental illness or whatever, and you pinpointed the source or you're poking around the source of their pain and trauma. They're not ready to deal with that, and they're not going to deal with that. This is why they created that inflated, oversized ego, so they don't have to deal with it. But you won't let it go. You just keep bringing it before them, and the only reason you're doing it is because you care, and you want them to be better. Narcissists don't want to be better, okay? They don't. So now you have created a situation where not only are you giving them one narcissistic injury after the other, but you don't believe what they say. And not only that, they've lost control of the situation, because now you talking to them crazy. You telling them, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not any of that. The narcissist at that point has a decision to make, because they're getting ready to go into negative with the energy situation. No new supply can help the narcissist get past that type of heat that you putting on them. They're going to have to get up out of there, period. Because you have to think about it like this. When you're dealing with a person with low self-esteem and low self-worth, and they pride themselves on the manipulation that they're able to take their supplies through, that is going to help them stay in that relationship and all of that. You're not about to see, when this happens right here, you're not about to get a narcissist to stay in a situation like that, because you are, it's more for them to stay. It's taking more energy for them to stay than for them to go. Even if you're the primary supply, they still got to get out of there. It has become dangerous and unsafe for them because there's no control. You have instituted now some boundaries, even if they weak boundaries. You done stood up to this clown and told him no to a few things. So no. They're not gonna hang around. Why? Because it's not beneficial to them. And not only that, they have realized that they can't continue to sustain narcissistic injuries like what you're giving to them by just basically holding their behinds accountable for what they've done to you and the fact that what they haven't done for themselves, which is work on themselves. At this point, you don't have to worry about the narcissist. Once this goes down, the narcissist knows they have to do the final discard. They got to get rid of you. As much as it's going to hurt them, they got to, and I'm talking about hurt them as far as their supply source, because you are a great source of supply, right? But in this particular situation, they're going to get rid of you. They are. Because they know that they can't sustain themselves, and they can't sustain the negative energy levels that it's taking to engage with you. At that point, consider yourself the biggest winner. You just bought yourself a ticket, a permanent ticket out. Now, in this case, you will probably not have that stalker ever again. You know why? Because they realize that you are not the one to be played with. Okay? And they realize that, guess what? At the end of the day, they could never be with another person that thought of them the way that you left thinking about them, which means that they were scum, trash, all of that. They don't want to be with somebody that thinks of them in that way. Okay, family? So listen, this is how, and this is what happens when the narcissist knows that they have to do the final discard. Okay. All right. So family, I hope this helps, and I will see you all on the next video, and I will see you all healed and whole at the top. Shalom, family. Peace.